Back again, it's Jim Powell speaking, Mix 93.8 FM. This is the last week of Monday nights at 6 o'clock. Next week it will be Tuesdays at 6 o'clock. It's On the Spot, and we're talking about all these radio waves that are constantly going through us wherever we travel around. And obviously with the everything that's happening, it is increasing. There's more applications going in. And we have a community organisation who's putting forward its point of view. We have ICASA, who monitors and regulates the airwaves, and we have Vodacom, who've come in to give their point of view as well. There's a lot of money involved, but also there's a lot of potential health problems, and we can actually do that. Now, we're going to before you come in, I want to say from the CELC point of view that they say that they adhere to the International Commission on Non-Ionising Radiation Protection, the UK National Radiation Protection Board, the US Cellular Telecommunications Industry Association, Health Canada, German Research Association for Radio Application, Research Centre for the Environmental Compatibility of Electromagnetic Fields, and Global GSM Association supporting radio frequency research. It must be noted that typical exposures to radio signals amount to less than 1% of international safety recommendations. These levels are broadly comparable to radio and television broadcast services that people already accept. Okay, what I'd like you to do is, first of all, just respond to that and then give me the information you were going to give me before. Okay,
they'll often quote all these very glibly, and I was in a presentation with that particular company at a hearing at a school, and that exact company, CELC, sat in there and actually turned around and said there is no radiation from cell masts whatsoever. And that's what they were trying to inform a poor school that they were trying to put a cell mast in.
Where was the school?
Eldorado Park.
Eldorado Park. Okay.
All right. Now, they glibly quote that. I'm happy to see they mentioned Health Canada, who actually recently, Health Canada has heightened what they feel are their advisory for the use of cell phones to precautionary for under 18s. And there they mention Health Canada. So we asked them actually at that meeting, please produce all the scientific information and what that's been said by Health Canada, and they actually couldn't present anything. Or couldn't give us any papers at their presentation on that.
Okay, well, look, the thing is about 0 volts per meter, you wouldn't get a signal.
Yes, exactly.
So obviously there has to be.
Your phone wouldn't work.
Yes, okay.
So, and then I was speaking about ICNIP earlier on. Right. And Paolo Vecchia, who currently is the chairman for ICNIP, he presented at the Radiation Research Trust Conference in September 2008. In his presentation, he made it very clear that the ICNIP guidelines are neither mandatory prescriptions for safety, the last word on the issue, nor are they defensive walls for industry or others. Also, in the 1998 guidelines, they say different groups in a population may have differences in the ability to tolerate a particular NIR exposure. For example, children, the elderly, and some chronically ill people might have a lower tolerance for one or more forms than the rest of the population. Under such circumstances, it may be useful or necessary to develop separate guidelines for different groups within the general population.
Okay, so a lot of it is where it's ongoing research that's taking place. Yes. And we need to actually get more involved as far as the actual health problems are concerned. You're picking up that certain families have had to move for a number of times, and you had the personal problem of a mast. I think you said before that it was about 30 meters from your bedroom.
We also, both myself and my family became very ill, including my young boy. And we actually had to desert our home, which we left for 18 months until the mast was removed and we could come home. So, but we're not the only families. I think we're just one of the ones that have spoken out right now. And hopefully people that are being affected, there's going to be more and more coming out. And what the thing is really is, it's not to stop this technology. It's just to make it safer and introduce levels that are being adhered to, that are being applied in Europe and very successfully.
So a part of the thing is, if you put a mast up, you want to make maximum utilization of it, so you boost the power. Okay, so the answer to it maybe is putting more masts up, but with a lower power. Is that the sort of thing that we're looking at?
No, well, the problem is that there's already so many masts that are up, and nobody's monitoring what those affects. There's nobody that can actually tell you, well, in this area, in this home, and that these are the levels that the people are coping with. They're not also factoring the modulations, the different types of frequencies, and this is what the latest research is showing, is that these multitude of frequencies are affecting people biologically. These standards that are being spoken about by the industry are set on 6 minutes of thermal heating on an adult male, not 24/7 on a child, a woman, the biological effects. 6 minutes of thermal heating.
Okay, and I suppose that's really in using your cell phone. Yes. Rather than receiving radiation from the mast.
Yes, well, now, what I'm saying now, this is 24/7, you're receiving it from cell mast. A cell phone you can switch off.
Right. Richard,
itching to go. Right, thank you. No, look, this is a hugely important topic, and I understand it's emotive. I understand people are worried. I understand people are upset, and that's why it's very important to understand some of the basics. There are a few points I want to go through. First point, just to name them in order here. First of all, we need to talk about EMF itself, where electromagnetic frequency. What are the sources? Where does it come from? Because the point is that cell phones and base stations are a tiny portion of the background, and your transmitter that people are listening to this from is orders of magnitude higher than the base station. So, but we'll come.
Before you go any further, give me the number. How many watts do you issue?
Right, on a typical base station antenna is operating somewhere between 40 and 80 watts. And if we remember old light bulbs, that's a light bulb. Yeah. A light bulb in each direction. It is very, very low powered. And okay, while I'm on that subject, let's talk this through. Electromagnetic frequency.
Another question I've got. Is that per panel that it issues?
Yes, so they're typically in 3 directions. So it'll be between 40 and 80 watts in each of 3 directions.
Each panel, you just simply say 80, 160, 240, according to the number of panels.
No, because this is, well, in fact, this is my colleague from ICASA can help explain, but you run into frequency overlap issues. You can't just add antenna. There's only a limited amount of frequency, so there's only so much in a given area.
And my understanding is that cell phones actually hop up and down. Is that correct?
The cell phone power output, if that's...
No, is the frequency identical, but it's digital, therefore you can have more channels on a digital frequency rather than an analog frequency.
See, now we need some engineers. I mean, the basics are you're using different uplink and downlink.
Our expert is smiling there. We'll let him answer that question.
Yeah, I was going to say, could I just set out, first of all, you said there's some really key points here. Again, first of all, EMF comes from everything around you. Sunlight is a form of EMF. That computer monitor in front of you is bathing you in EMF. Your electric heater, underfloor heating that runs all night is generating an EMF field. Your electric blanket, your iron, your microwave oven, your kettle. I mean, you get the point. This thing is being generated by objects across the house, and if we go back more to the point, we've had radio transmissions going since the turn of the century, TV since the 50s, on orders and orders of magnitude higher than the levels that are coming from cell phones and base stations. So point one, EMF comes from an awful lot of things. To single out base stations and cell phones, if, for example, one is claiming electromagnetic hypersensitivity, it really doesn't make any sense. So, first point. Second point, we're actually going after the wrong thing. Even if there was something people wanted to talk about here, the majority of the exposure you get isn't from the base station, it's from your cell phone. So to talk about base stations we're actually missing the point here. We need to talk about the cell phones themselves. And I'll come back and explain all that in a bit more detail. Third point, and we got to be really careful about this. People quote chunks and little bits of studies and forget little words like possibly when it comes to carcinogenic. And there's rather a big difference between claiming something is carcinogenic and, in fact, the facts on this one. So this came out last year, and the classification of electromagnetic frequency. And we have a number of classifications. We have classification 1, does cause cancer. In that, we've got alcohol, obesity, We've got the contraceptive pill, salted fish, smoking, all these things that we do all the time that we know everything about, but those definitely cause cancer. Right, we'll go to the next one. Probably causes cancer. Here, I've got a classic one I just dug up. Emissions from frying. So, any guys working in McDonald's? Yeah, you know, possibly. Now we'll go, sorry, probably. Now let's go to the third one. So we've not definite, not probably, possibly. In this category, we have coffee, pickled vegetables, talcum powder. I mean, really, it is utter scaremongering to come out and say somebody has classified this as carcinogenic when nothing the sort has happened. So, next point, coming through these, and this is actually a really fun one. By removing base stations, you are increasing people's exposure. And now this is a bit of a bit of one to get your head around. Your cell phone actually attenuates its power output according to how good the signal is. If it has a very good signal, base station's close by, it whispers. If it has a poor signal because somebody has taken that base station away on the basis of again, some alleged scientific evidence, that cell phone starts shouting. And what are you holding to your head? It's the cell phone. So by removing base stations, you're actually achieving the opposite of what you're trying to do, which is reduce exposure.
What is the wattage that a typical cell phone will issue?
Between 0.1 and 1 was what I was just reading today.
Is that watts?
Yes.
Watts of radio power, which is right next to your head.
Yes.
Okay, and the other one is the attenuation of radio waves, I believe, is to the cube root,
which means it's square, isn't it?
Cube, because it's like a sphere. So if you go 1 meter away, it goes down to a certain level. If you're 2 meters away, it's at 1/8. Is that correct? If it's a cube root. Yes, I'm getting a little nod there from our expert from ICASA, okay, and he's going to explain a whole load of things just now. Okay, now also the thing is that the EMFs that you're talking about, which is from the kettle, that's at a frequency of 50 hertz, which is what the mains is. Okay, so all electrical devices will give that. We start moving up in the frequencies, and if we get to X-rays, they are a lot more dangerous, and that's why when somebody goes to take an X-ray, they get behind all this masses of lead glass, etc. But that's so they're not exposed all the time, because they're
the non-ionizing versus ionizing split.
Because and that's a much higher frequency. And the way in which microwave ovens were invented was that one of the technicians was walking past a mast, and his chocolate melted in his pocket, and they took that further and further, and so it's microwave. Although microwave ovens are fairly well shielded, you're still going to get some EMF coming out of it. Now, what frequency is let's just ask the question, cell phones in relation to microwave? I think our ICASA expert can come in here and tell us.
Hey Jim, basically the GSM network is broken up in the normal GSM, that's 800, 900 megahertz. Then you're going high up in the band, that's 1.8 gigs. That's where we come into the microwave part, and it goes over to 2.2, and then obviously the newer bands that's been allocated or identified for allocation is like 2.5 and 3.5 gigahertz.
Yeah, what is a microwave?
We classify microwave any frequency above 1 gigahertz.
Okay, let me just change that question slightly. What is a microwave oven? What's its frequency?
Microwave oven is in the region of about 1.8 gigahertz.
So the 1.8 is right there, because that's the frequency which hydrogen is excited, and that bangs around and heats everything up around it. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's. I will say it happens with all frequencies. The only thing is with a microwave oven, you're looking at 900 to 800 watts.
Yes.
Where that you don't experience on any radio transmission going physically taking place.
Well, we've got 500 here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but obviously a much lower frequency.
So we should be banning radio stations.
Yes. All right. Okay. Okay. Give us a little more around what it is that you're doing as far as making sure that our radio waves are reasonably well managed.
Look, when we talk about microwave, we identify as saying frequencies above 1 gigahertz. Most of that frequencies was from point to point. That will go from one mast to the next mast with specialized antennas, so that the radiation levels don't.
These are the ones that have got. It's like the DSTV dishes that you see. And what happens is it takes the signal, it reflects it, and it goes more or less in a beam, and it gets picked up on the other side with an almost identical dish, which concentrates the signal again. Yeah, obviously, you do get a lot of spread going out in the immediate area, or not. Tell me.
It all depends on the quality of the dish.
Yes.
You get inferior quality dishes as well, then you will have radiation coming out of the backside of the dish.
Yeah.
But if you engineer a radio network,
but that's part of your job, isn't it, to make sure that the dishes comply, so you don't get too much leakage?
No, that's not. We don't regulate any antennas.
So you don't know if they're actually throwing out a whole load of microwaves from that particular dish, then?
No, we don't regulate any equipment. Basically, all we do is we physically type approve the radio equipment, but the type approval only goes up to when it comes to the equipment. When it comes to antennas, you can, in lower frequency, you can take a piece of coat hanger and use that as an antenna. What I'm trying to say is, when it comes to the microwave side, you need a certain amount of power from one point to the next point. So if you're going to use inferior quality antennas, you're going to use more electricity to generate this amount of RF to get from the one point to the next point. So you basically engineering a bad network, so you rather spend the better money on the dish and getting a lower you need a lower input of electricity, because you have to pay for that.
Yes.
That is when it comes to microwave. When it comes to normal frequencies below 1 gigahertz, those are all that we call omnidirectional antennas. That's the walkie-talkies where the security guys walk around with. The radiation goes in a circular direction from the antenna to wherever the base station is, and most of the base station that areas as well is also.
And what frequency is that?
That can be anything from 20 megahertz up to basically the normal radio frequency band for us is about like 470
megahertz.
There
are open bandwidths, aren't there? That is not really regulated, such as what was it called before? Those radios.
The CB bands and all that. No, those are lower frequencies.
Yeah.
They were always regulated.
Yes, but they interfered with each other. But that was the beast.
Yeah, that's a multi-user. What we say. If you've got two like CB specifically, if one guy is causing interference and another guy, he can't complain about the interference. We won't resolve the interference.
And what sort of power is the output of those?
They basically 8 watts.
So that's fairly high.
It's quite high. Your normal base station radios, when it comes to the security companies, your alarm transmitter in your house for the security companies, they in the region between 15 watts and 25 watts. So those are also quite high. Your normal mobile radios that you've got installed in a radio in a vehicle, that's also in the region of about 25 watts.
Is it that high?
Yes.
The old Nokia 800 series that was only in the, you could only actually have it.
No, you're talking about the cell phone that was installed in the vehicle.
Yeah.
And the old C450 motor phone system.
Yes.
No, those are different.
They were 8 watt.
Yeah, the Motorola was. But
yes.
The C450 ones was 25 watts.
But that was that an analog system?
Yeah, that was an analog system.
Okay, all right, thanks. Anything else you think our listeners should need to know?
No.
We'll quite possibly
Obviously
be referring
back to me if there's anything else.
Just taking a couple more adverts.
93.8 FM.